Yeah. Thanks. Thank you for coming, everybody. I hope I can say something worthwhile. So the first time Prabhupada was in San Francisco, Garth. And that was, I think it was 1971. And before that, I only saw a picture of Prabhupada on the Happening album. I don't know if anybody has seen that album. And I got it in St. Mark's Place in the Village. And I was, I don't know, maybe 15, 16. I did see the devotees coming out of 61 Second Avenue because I was going to a rock concert. And I saw them on hard, and I'm all, oh God, these guys are weird. Oh. But I was definitely attracted, but it wasn't the time. And so that was my first attraction. And then I was interested in yoga. But I wasn't very attracted to any of the other. But when I saw Prabhupada, picture of Prabhupada, I said, he's my guru. And then I saw a picture of Krishna. And I accepted Krishna as God right away because I accepted Prabhupada. So I didn't really know what to do at that point. So a lot of things happened. I went to West Virginia, but then I went out to California, the farm in New Vrindavan. But when I first saw Prabhupada, that was it, really. And he was so gorgeous. And he came out of the van and he stepped on Sukhada's chariot, and I stayed close. And of course I was crying. And there's a picture of that, so it's confirmed. So I stayed by his car, and Prabhupada kept on showing me to dance. But I didn't want to. I wanted to, stay by him, and it was like I didn't even want to blink, practically. I just was fixed on him. But then he kept on telling me to dance, and so I danced, and the whole parade was very ecstatic, and I just kept on dancing, and then every once in a while turning around to see Prabhupada, and he did the same thing. He kept putting his hands up, so I had to. It wasn't like I had to dance. I wanted to dance, but I wanted to see him more. And so somehow or other, after the parade, Prabhupada kind of he just kind of got swept away in the crowd. And I think he gave a lecture. I'm not sure, it's very vague. And then after, I thought, oh no, I gotta find him. And so he went to the San Francisco temple. I went to the temple there. And then he went to LA. And so I went to the LA temple. So after that time, I decided that wherever Prabhupada was going to be, I was going to find him. And so after that, I think he went to the East Coast. But so I went to Boston, and then the next time I saw him was in Henry Street. Thank you. Well, what I really wanted to say before I started to speak was, since Parvati's in the room, I wanted to thank Parvati for arranging all these speakers. And it's with Parvati's persistence that we all got to speak about Prabhupada. So I wanted to thank her for making an arrangement. Yes. And I think we should all Okay, so the second time I saw Prabhupada was in Henry Street. And Henry Street was kind of like a trading ground for austerity. And there were a lot of devotees at that time. And most of the sannyasis were all brahmacharis. And so I think that was around 71, I'm not sure. I forget about the dates. And it was just when the press started. So everybody moved from Boston, and we moved also to Henry Street, and that was in Brooklyn. And Prabhupada came. And the first time Prabhupada came, everybody started to paint the ceiling. And it was a big room, brownstone, and a very high ceiling. And each little was painted, each little like tile was painted a color. And we spent a lot of time, we would be up all night painting for Prabhupada and cleaning his room. And we were all excited. Prabhupada finally came, and what did he say? He said, why isn't everybody on Sankirtan? Why is everybody painting? So that was Prabhupada's mood. And that was the mood of the temple at that time. After the morning program, everybody was given a bag, and you were sent out. And even if you had a child wrapped around your back or your front, it didn't matter. You were going to go out on Sankirtan. But it was a very ecstatic time. Prabhupada came, and it was, he didn't stay long. Maybe he stayed 3 days. So the next time I saw Prabhupada was in Los Angeles. And we moved from Henry Street to Los Angeles because we found out that Prabhupada was spending more time in Los Angeles. He would, instead of 3 days, he was staying 3 months. So, okay, so to follow Prabhupada, so we went to LA. And, before I went to LA, I got initiated by Prabhupada. But he was at the temple, but not feeling, he was ill, but I got initiated anyway from Prabhupada, but Brahmananda did the sacrifice. So, anyway, so we went to Los Angeles Temple, New Dwarka, and that was a thriving temple. There were like hundreds of householders and children, and it was massive. And Prabhupada loved LA because the weather was perfect, and he had a nice apartment, and everything was very conducive there. That we, for living, we all got our own apartments. And it wasn't as austere as New York. New York was really austere. So kind of felt like paradise compared to New York, because in New York we were, like begging for flowers, food, and I even stole silver from my father's jewelry store and silver from their house, but they couldn't call the police because I'm their daughter. But I told them, I'm bringing it to the temple, I'm not stealing it. But my mother tells the story that I stole it. I just took it right out of the store. But then there was no silver for the deities, so I felt like I had to do it. Anyway, I was a thief. So anyway, LA was really sweet. It was nice and easy, and Prabhupada would spend 3 months at a time, and every day he'd go on a morning walk and give a lecture, and then after the lecture, the kids got cookies. And so in the old temple room was very intimate. The women were at the door where Prabhupada first came, and so we got to see Prabhupada's lotus feet. And so I felt that the women really got a lot of mercy at that time. And so Prabhupada would come down, and we'd see his feet, and then he would come around and pay his obeisances to the deities, and then sit down. And a lot of us had to leave because we had children, but they made a facility for us, for another room where we can hear on the loudspeaker, and puppet shows for the kids, and all sorts of stuff. So it's really fun. And the kids also liked that Prabhupada was coming because they got cookies. And a lot of them were toddlers at that time. And they would just kind of wobble to the front, or we would pass the kid to the front, you know. But everyone got a cookie, and Prabhupada really loved it. He really, you could tell, he just loved doing it. And so that was every day while Prabhupada was in LA. He'd go on his morning walk, give class, and then the kids got cookies. So it was very sweet. And that Prabhupada was traveling a bit at that time. I think he was going to Hawaii and Mexico, but somehow or other we got Prabhupada most of the time. And when Prabhupada arrived in the car, we give him a flower, and then he would give us a flower back. And the same thing in the airport. We'd all rush to the airport and give Prabhupada a flower, and Prabhupada would give us a flower. So it was a very nice exchange. And the next time I saw Prabhupada, and at that time I got a second initiation from Prabhupada in his room, personal. I got my Gayatri mantra in Prabhupada's apartment.
What year?
That's, I don't know, 73, I don't know. I have amnesia about the years. But there's an interesting story about that. I was online and I really didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and Satsrupa Maharaj approached me and asked me if I wanted to meet Prabhupada. And of course I wanted to meet Prabhupada. He said, okay, come tomorrow, you get a second initiation, just like that. I'm like, okay. And a little anxiety because I didn't have any Guru Dakshin, I didn't have any money. Somehow I found $20 laying around. In those days, we all were poor. We were living on food stamps, you can imagine. But, well, I was online, and the boy before me, I went up the stairs, and then he came down, like, really quick, and I went, uh-oh, what happened? He said, Prabhupada told me to leave. I said, why? He said, because my bead bag was dirty. So I okay, I gotta go, right? So then it was my turn, so I knocked on Prabhupada's door, and I didn't hear him. And I knocked again, and then finally I went in, but I thought I was, making offense. And Prabhupada mentioned for me to come close. And so I came very close. I was really close to Prabhupada. He was very relaxed. And after he showed me the Gayatri mantra, which he said, will you chant this mantra 3 times a day? And I was really excited. I said, yeah, I'm gonna, yeah. Mm-hmm. He goes, so you will chant this mantra 3 times a day? And his eyebrows went up. I'm like, yeah. He goes, so you will chant this mantra 3 times a day? And I said, yes. And then I thought, oh, Prabhupada said it 3 times. And it's not a good thing. And he probably knows it, and I'm just not going to chant. But then I was going to leave because I didn't feel like I had a good offering. And so as I was leaving, Prabhupada opened his eyes real wide. He goes, so, what have you brought me? And I went, oh, this, and I put it on the table, and it was in a little wallet with some incense, some oils. Oh, Prabhupada said, from Spiritual Sky? I said, no, from India. He goes, oh, very nice. And then I kind of trying to get out of the door. And then Prabhupada pulled out the 20 and he started waving it around and waving it around. Like, he treated it like it was $1 million. So Prabhupada knew my mind. And so then I realized that no matter what, he's going to know what I'm thinking. And it's true, because all the other times that I had association with Prabhupada, he knew my mind. Like in Miami, in Florida, when I saw him, it was Coconut Grove, and we had beautiful banyan trees. And in the evening, Prabhupada gave a class, and I wanted to stay. And it was outside, and Prabhupada knew my mind. But Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was telling all the women to go. And I just stood there and looked at Prabhupada like, Prabhupada, help me out. So Prabhupada said, okay, it's okay, you just stay. And so somehow or other I got to sit, and my child was very nice and no problem. So that was good. It probably in my mind. And then the next day I waited at the temple.
What was he talking about?
Oh God, I don't remember. I was so nervous I don't remember. So the next day I decided to pull a fast one. And so all the devotees, I waited for Prabhupada to come back from the morning walk. And all the devotees were going in single file into the temple to do Guru Puja to Prabhupada. But I waited on the side door for Prabhupada to come. And so, and I had my baby in my hand. But it was, she wasn't dressed in a dress. She was dressed in like a kurta and yogi pants. And so Prabhupada said, boy? You have boy? But he knew it was a girl. I'm like, why did Prabhupada say that? But then I realized later that she was dressed like a boy. So, very sweet. So then everybody offered their flowers, and then we were last, me and my daughter, Lakshmi, we were last. And all the flowers that were on his lap, he took it and he threw it at her. It was very sweet. And everybody started screaming because it felt like the demigods were showering flowers on the arena. And everybody felt good. It was hot, and it was just very soothing. So I remember that. And
That was Lakshmi.
yeah, that was Lakshmi. And so that was in Florida. Okay. Okay, and there's other stories. There's a story that I should tell that happened in Henry Street. I didn't want to, but because Manjari is part of this story, so I have to tell the story. So this is the fame in Henry Street. Prabhupada was there, and he was doing a photo shoot of the sannyas picture. And it's a famous picture. I'm sure everybody's seen it. He took the picture with the BBT photographers who were out in the backyard in Henry Street. And Prabhupada sat for a long time, very nicely, and they were shooting and shooting. They were taking pictures of Prabhupada with his danda, with the books, and he had a beautiful garland on. So the day before this shoot took place, I was cleaning Prabhupada's quarters, and I was seeing this beautiful tree that wasn't, it wasn't fully, let's see, the flowers were just about budding, and it just kind of blossomed that next day. And so the tree was very, very beautiful, and you could tell it was an old tree. So, yeah, remember that tree? Yeah.
We called it the lotus flower tree.
And it was very beautiful.
It was a pink magnolia.
Yeah, that's what I thought, it was a pink magnolia.
And they looked like lotus.
They looked like,
the whole tree was
and it all bloomed the day Prabhupada did this photo shoot.
something to say.
Well, because she's part of this, Majari. So, and I'm watching from a fire escape. I don't know if everybody's familiar with a fire escape, but it's a little gnarly, you know, it's like steel, and, you know, there were a lot of us out there probably looking up at us.
A steel staircase.
Yeah, right.
They'll understand
Yeah,
staircase.
it's a very narrow staircase. It's for emergencies. If the building's on fire, it's a way to get out. So we watched, and it was going on for a while, and Prabhupada was very, you know, very humble through the whole process, and there was a lot of commotion. But he was wearing this beautiful garland that I found out later on that Manjari made. It was absolutely gorgeous, and it was really long, and if you see the pictures of Prabhupada's sannyas picture, you know the garland, and Manjari made it.
Two legs.
You've all seen this picture. It's like they have a full life-size photo of Prabhupada standing in the MVT lobby, Prabhupada is
Yeah.
standing with the danda, that's Balimar danda. And
How is it going on?
that's why it's too high for Prabhupada.
Oh, that's interesting. See, I didn't know that.
And it's very, he's standing on crushed purple velvet, and it's all
It's the
very
famous
orange.
sannyas picture. I think Bhargava. That was Bhargava's. But anyway, after Prabhupada garlanded the tree with that beautiful garland, and he did his pranams, and it was, yeah, I didn't tell you that, yeah. So that was amazing, yeah, I forgot about that. And then another time in the airport, in Kennedy Airport, when Prabhupada would come to the temple, everybody would rush to the airport. That was a big thing. And somehow or other, I don't know how I got there before everybody, but I got there before everybody. And then all, like Brahmananda and all his guards were not around him because something happened with the ticket. And I don't know the whole story. If Brahmananda was here, he would know the story. But Prabhupada was sitting in the lounge, and I got to sit next to him. But I was also distributing back to Godheads as well, because I didn't want to just sit there, looking silly. So I got to distribute back to Godheads to the people on his flight, and I was telling them how lucky they were that they were going to get to meet Prabhupada. And then I also kind of felt like I needed to guard him because there was nobody there. And so Prabhupada was laughing and chuckling, and I think he got a kick out of that. Again, he read my mind again. So, let's see. I don't remember, but you can tell the story. You want to tell the story?
Tell it.
Yeah, tell the story.
One time, when Prabhupada was leaving, it has to be that time, that after I made the garland, because I only saw Prabhupada once in New York, and so that was 73. It was the spring of 73, right before I got married. And so when Prabhupada was leaving, Shrutikirti was his servant, and I was distributing books at the airport, and we were waiting for Prabhupada to come. By the time I got there, maybe it's a little later of the same time, and Prabhupada was sitting cross-legged, I think, and Barjaj had come with the harmonium, and he was singing to Prabhupada. I'm not sure if it was Jai Radha, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan, because Barjaj sang that so beautifully, but I'm not sure. I've always wanted to know. And Prabhupada was sitting, and he was just, tears were streaming from his eyes. And I just came, and I saw that, and all the devotees were just like sitting around him. And at first I was worried. I was thinking, is something wrong? And then I realized that there wasn't anything wrong. And I didn't understand really what I was seeing, but Prabhupada was exhibiting ecstatic symptoms. And all the devotees were just chanting very sweetly. And I went to Shrutikirti, and as in the beginning, I went to Shrutikirti and I said, it's like, I thought something was wrong. I said, can you help me out? And he said, he just shook his head. He said, no, nothing to do. And then I also sat there. But now I realize that we were so fortunate to have been in Prabhupada's presence at that time.
we were also crying when Prabhupada left. It was sweet when he came, but when he left, it was really sad. Because we didn't know when we were going to see him again, or where. But we, somehow or other we got to see Prabhupada. Also, I wanted to mention in LA, because that's when I really had a lot more, I saw Prabhupada a lot. And Prabhupada always kind of knew my mind again, and I was having a lot of difficulty at that time. And Prabhupada would always look at me and shake his hand and go, okay, you know, like this, like, it'll pass, and later it'll be better. He almost knew how it was going to go, you know. I don't know, it felt like that, right? Like past, present, or future. Yeah. And so, you know, I would say, okay, you know, I don't know how it's going to go, but it was sweet because later on I got to be in Prabhupada's quarters taking care of Lord Jagannath. And I felt Prabhupada knew that that's how it was going to work out. And it was a very sweet 2-week service, just me taking care of Jagannath. And it was very sweet, and I felt Prabhupada kind of blessed me for that service. He allocated it. It was like for me, and Prabhupada knew. And so I just felt that. And then another thing I felt bad about was because we were in the West and Prabhupada spent a lot of time in India. And so India was always taking Prabhupada away from us. And so I was really angry with India. Like, why does Prabhupada have to go to India? Why does he have to go to India? But of course, look what happened. You know, he built this beautiful temple where we could always go. He knew we'd need a place to go. But at that time, it was like, you know, we wanted Prabhupada to stay with us. And so later on in years, I got to come later. And the first time I came to Vrindavan, I went right to Radha Damodar, because that's where Prabhupada stayed when he first came. And Prabhupada was very kind to me. I went into his room and he came to me, and so I felt like I was there with him, and that he fulfilled my desires. So again, he knew how I felt. And so on that note, I'll hand it over to my beautiful god sisters.
I want to hear from Sukhada next.
Oh, okay.
I heard from you guys enough.
Okay.
You get that.
This is
If you can raise it to just about up to here. I think one of the screws on the bottom. One of you guys know how to do that? On the bottom. That just turns it. On the bottom, I think it goes this way. Yeah, there. Should she move the chair? Okay.
My name is
There's
Sukhada,
nobody in the way?
and thank you for letting me speak. I'm not a very good devotee, so I don't usually speak at these things.
Has to be much closer.
So I'll try to make it brief, because I see we have a little time. Well, nevertheless, I first saw the devotees in Auburn University in Alabama, in the States, and I think 1971. And at that point in time, they were chanting across the campus, and I don't think I had any judgment. I was just shocked. It was like, my God, what is that? You know, the orange robes and bald heads and the little ponytail in the back. It was all that. I was pretty shocked and just like, wow. And then I don't know, I kind of forgot it. I was like, Wouldn't want to be them. Guess what? So, anyway, something happened to me, and it's just ridiculously insane, and I hate to even talk about it because it's so off the wall, but nevertheless, I'll tell you, I had an out-of-body experience one morning before waking up where I remembered what it was like to die and be reborn again, where you go through all the 100 verse, you know, you wind up before the demigods, they're telling me, you gotta go back. I find myself in the womb, praying, oh my God, just let me out of here. I promise this time I'll do it, this time I'll do it. And then all of a sudden, there's light. It's like an egg cracking open, and you're crying. And so I woke up and we're walking around the living room. I was going, what? And I woke up my husband. Was like, did it happen to you? I mean, do you remember? Do you remember? Do you remember what it was you were supposed to do? He said, what are you talking about? I said, we're supposed to be doing something, and I can't remember what it is. You know, obviously that I had promised Krishna this time I would be his devotee. And so, anyway, over the next, I'd say 6 months or so, I went around reading every book I could get my hand on and searching very hard, trying to figure out what it was I was supposed to be doing. And everybody said, you're basically out of your mind, you're crazy, you've lost it, right? And then so I went to a rock festival, again, another rock festival, right, in Illinois, and I met this hippie who had been in Vietnam, and he was sitting up in a tree, and whatever, he comes down, he starts talking to me. Anyway, we start talking about something spiritual. He says, have you heard of the Krishna people and the Hare Krishnas? And I said, yeah, aren't they the people that chant mantras? He said, yeah, they're having a festival in West Virginia. So you want to go? So I was like, I think I do, yeah. So I left my husband and ran off with this guy, and we went to West Virginia. And we got there, we hitchhiked across the country. We got there at 4 o'clock in the morning. And of course everybody they were having Mongol Arati. Kind of like, what in the world have I gotten myself into? I was scared, you know. They made me take my shoes off. What if I lose my shoes? Big deal now that I look back there, right? And then, so, you know, I made it through that, and then afterwards, you know, devotees were kind of cornering me. In those days, devotees did that. They'd kind of get you up against a wall and just preach to you really seriously. Like if you didn't, like, make an immediate change, you were definitely going to hell with. So, and then I don't know, I don't think there was prasadam until later, but they kept talking about Prabhupada, you know, he's here and whatever, and I was like, whatever, who's Prabhupada, right? And then all of a sudden, you know, this limo comes up the driveway and everybody starts screaming, Prabhupada's coming, Prabhupada's coming. It's like, okay. So I go out, and Prabhupada gets out of the car, and he's stunning, he's regal. He's walking like you see in the pictures with his cane. He's just like, wow, who is this guy? And he was completely regal. That's the only words I can say for Prabhupada. Anyway, I shortly went back to Atlanta, and I met this devotee Gayatri on the front porch of the temple, and she said, do you know what happens at the time of death? And I was, yeah, but nobody believes me, so no, tell me what happened. She said, wait a minute, I'm going to get Srimad Bhagavatam. She pulls out the Srimad Bhagavatam and starts reading it to me, and it's like, oh my God, my, you know, hair's down, tears rolling down my face. It's like, really? Does that mean I have to join you guys? I was fighting it tooth and nail. I didn't want to. It's like, really? I don't want to do this. And she said, yeah, I guess, but anyway, I was very fortunate, and I did all kind of service, and I was cooking in Majari and Sankirtan, and I was fortunate because when I was on Sankirtan, I was able to see Prabhupada because we traveled, and so we would go to different Rath Yatra festivals, and I saw Prabhupada in Chicago, in Philadelphia, in Washington, D.C., in Atlanta, in New Vrindavan. Backtracking to New Vrindavan, at the time they were having a rock opera they put together. Do you remember that? They did a rock opera in Pittsburgh, in which they brought Prabhupada to Pittsburgh, and this big auditorium was packed full of not only devotees but other people as well. And I thought it was great, but Prabhupada got up and walked out. It was like, he didn't like it at all. I was recently informed by Karta Didi or Priya in Los Angeles. We were talking, and she asked me about association with Prabhupada, and I said, well, he gave me Gayatri Mantra in Atlanta, Georgia. And she said, really, tell me about it. And I was like, oh, so embarrassed. And it's like, okay, here's the truth. I went into his room and sat down, and he was sitting this way facing me, I was sitting this way, and he had his hand, he said, put your hand here. He was about to show me how to count, and I was just in awe and gawking at him. I was like, and he slapped my hand, and he said, pay attention. So Karta, or Gurpriya, she's pointed out to me, she said, you're very lucky, you got personal instruction from Prabhupada. And after that day that I spoke with her, I've thought about it a lot since, and she is absolutely right, because I have trouble paying attention all the time. My mother used to call me scatterbrain, and I'm just like in the zone somewhere. So I realized that I'm very fortunate that Prabhupada's telling me to pay attention not only to the Gayatri Mantra, but to the Maha Mantra and to the sadhus and everything they say. We're so fortunate to have association of sadhus. And I've been thinking recently, we're not even that far off from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We're only 500 years. I mean, we're not very far from some of the greatest devotees ever. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the things he wrote, the songs he wrote, the amount of books he wrote, amazes me. Anyway, one little story. When Prabhupada was coming to Atlanta, of course, before I took initiation, I was a Pujari at that time, and I had made the deities. We had Gornitai deities at that time, and they were so beautiful. Of course, I guess we all think our own deities are the most beautiful ever, but I had made this outfit, and it was kind of a reddish-orange, bright color, and we had the capes had peacocks on them, and I spent hours and hours making them. And
How big?
what's that?
How big were they?
They were large. They were very large. They were very large deities. I don't remember the exact size, but yeah, at least. And so I have been up all night finishing the last details, getting the altar ready, all the brass being polished and everything, and then came time to pick Prabhupada up. Well, I was so afraid that I would miss Prabhupada, I fell asleep in the closet while I was, in the deity, where all the fabric and everything was. And so I fell asleep, and then somebody says, we're going to the airport, and the temple president said, you can't go, you got to stay here and make sure everything's ready. I say, Okay. So I couldn't go to the airport meeting, but he came and he was amazed and he cried when he saw the deities, tears sort of streaming down his face. And then he went to his quarters and was walking up. They were upstairs above a house that was next door to the temple. And
Which temple was this?
Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, Atlanta. And so he looks down, and this one devotee that I was with from Washington, D.C., she says, if you press your hands together and look at Prabhupada like this, he'll do it back to you. And I said, really? And she said, yeah, and so I did, and he did, which was quite nice. And then I went on about whatever I was doing, and then the same lady comes rushing in, and she said, Prabhupada wanted to know who made those clothes for the deities. And so she told him my name, and he said, very nice, very nice. So,
How do they find you in the closet?
that's a good question. Scatterbrain here, I don't remember. So much I don't remember, but I just know that I was fortunate enough to see him. I saw him at Chicago Rath Yatra and Philadelphia Rath Yatra and Washington, D.C. Oh, in 1976, the 200-year anniversary of the United States, 1776, yeah. And Prabhupada got up and walked up, I guess it was the Lincoln Memorial, and spoke, which was quite amazing. Anyway, I don't know that I have anything else to say. You have a question? I'm sorry.
The Lincoln Memorial.
What is the question?
The Lincoln Memorial.
The Lincoln?
Yeah.
Could you tell more about the Lincoln Memorial?
What is the question?
Tell about the time that Prabhupada spoke at the Lincoln Memorial.
I don't think I could tell you. I don't, you know, again, I was just so in awe, and so it's like, I can't believe I'm here, I can't believe this is happening. There were fireworks going everywhere, devotees were screaming, people were, you know, I don't remember what he said, if they had a microphone with him or not. It's very vague in my mind, unfortunately.
I'm sure there's a tape or something.
What's
I'm
that?
sure there's a recording.
I wish. I really wish there were. Anyway, I won't take any more time. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm quite embarrassed, but
You guys can move over so that it'll be easier for the, we'll miss a few heads in the camera. Manjari, you want me Now, can you move closer, because in case you guys are speaking, then she has to switch the camera around.
It's okay. It's a good shot. Yeah.
Any heads in the way? Okay. Oh, did you say, you didn't say your name, did you?
Sukhada.
Tell thank you so that you can hear them.
my name is Sukhada. It's David Dotsie.
Okay, now you say your name so we know. Now she has the thing, you put it near your mouth. Closer. Thank you. You can put it right here and it's perfect.
This is okay.
Higher.
Hi, bro. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sandhivayavacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Jai Srila Prabhupada. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. The first time I saw Srila Prabhupada was in a dream.
in 1969. And I read later on that for ordinary devotees, the spiritual master and Krishna come to them in dreams. Because I didn't really talk about it to anyone. I thought, oh, if people will think it's strange, you know. And then I read this in the, I think it might have been Nectar of Devotion. Yeah, so then I became a little more confident that, okay, at least I'm an ordinary devotee, and that Srila Prabhupada came like that. In early '69, March, I read a Back to Godhead cover to cover, and Prabhupada wrote a really wonderful article that said, depend on Krishna, the cow, and the land. And it really resonated really intensely within me, because I believe that. I believe in depending upon Krishna, the animals, and the land. And we come from Hawaii, Manjari and I, and there my aunt and uncle had 5 acres and a cow, and they had a windmill, and they had this kind of a simple lifestyle with a Buddhist nun that lived on the property that only ate what she could hold in one hand once a day. She would perform austerities like that, and they were members of Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society. So we had like this kind of background, you know. She would take me to listen to yogis at the YMCA. So she was the one who was very much encouraging. When I showed her the picture of Srila Prabhupada, she said, oh, he's a very great man, very great man. So she was my favorite relative, and I very much emulated, followed in her footsteps like that. So the summer of '69, I graduated from high school, and I hitchhiked to the Haiku Meditation Center to do Mon Vrat and meditate. And at that time, I read cover to cover teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And I saw the picture of Prabhupada again. And it was like, wow, that's when I had this dream during that 3-month period in 1969. I'd met the devotees in May, and I was chanting on beads because I had gotten some book. I'd read Autobiography of a Yogi, I think all good hippies did. And I saw the picture of Krishna, and I was making murals of Krishna. I was planning to take Hindi at the university, and I'd already learned to put on a sari. So when I met the devotees, I was wearing a saffron silk sari. And how I met them was everybody said, your people are over there. So I went over to there, and there were Govindadasi and Tiridas chanting Hare Krishna. And so I joined with them. It was the May 1st, 1969, and it was the Jimi Hendrix concert that was canceled. And there was a huge conga line in the park. The happening thing was the Jimi Hendrix concert. We were all outside of the concert. It was actually that's when Babru met the devotees too. Babru Prabhu, or Bhakti Ashram Maharaj, he met the devotees that day too, and we moved in the temple the same day also. So I think we are like really brothers. But that dream was really poignant. I didn't really understand it at the time, but Srila Prabhupada was surrounded by, I thought they were angels all wearing saffron and carrying sticks. I didn't understand the sticks. You know, I mean, it's all like, it all gets revealed later on. So I just let the stick part go, you know, until I saw the sannyasis carrying sticks. And we all got to see the first, you know, one fellow who took sannyas, Siddha Swarup, Ananda Goswami, he took sannyas in Hawaii, and we remember when Katyayani, we were all like helping her make his sannyas stick, put the 3 pieces of bamboo together. Prabhupada gave him sannyas, and he initiated 3 other devotees at the same time as he installed Panchatattva. This was actually the 2nd time Srila Prabhupada came to Hawaii, or 3rd time. First was early '69, and then July of 1970. During that visit, he stayed in the Ilikai Hotel. I still have a napkin that he stepped out of the shower onto.
Jai. We kept everything, you know, like any little thing. I have, you know, shards of cloth, a spoon, a piece of hair from, you know, when he would shave. We kept all the little tidbits, you know, this napkin. I had a piece of clay that Prabhupada stepped on, floral clay at the Church of the Crossroads. He was wearing shoes with tread, and it still has the tread mark. I have them all here in Vrindavan. Even I have rice from Prabhupada's plate. I dried rice, and I still have that dried rice. That dried rice is a miracle rice, actually, because I had a piece of it that was in a little saran wrap plastic that I used to keep in my wallet and take it out and just like Maha Prasad from Srila Prabhupada. And one day I was in New York and I was in the garment business, and I had just taken out the piece of rice and I was yearning for the devotee association. We were just going on Sunday, teaching Sunday school, doing my deity worship at home, and I was just thinking, oh, how nice it would be to see a devotee, and in walks a devotee. I'm on something like the 36th floor of this big building on 6th Avenue in New York City, and in walks a devotee. It's like this rice is wish fulfilling. You just wish for something, and instantly that your desire is fulfilled. In walks a devotee carrying this big placard that's covered with a chadar. So I said, oh, nice chadar. And he looked at me and he said, what do you know about chadar? And I said, nice beads too, nice kanti beads. And he said, what do you know? And so I pulled out the grain of rice and I said, I was just wishing to get the association of a devotee on this Maha Prasad from Prabhupada's plate, and you came in. And I said, here. So I gave him the grain of rice. He just about fainted, because that was a big thing. He was selling earrings, and he had this big board with all these earrings that he personally handmade. And so I bought a pair of earrings from him. Oh, I don't even know. I didn't really, keep track of him or anything. But anyway, the Mahaprasad rice is very, very special, and I gave a grain to Dauji for her wedding gift. And I wished on it for her that her marriage would be very fulfilling and wonderful for the rest of their lives. Yeah, that's the best thing I could probably have given, newly married couple. But Prabhupada's mercy is like that. It's ever expanding. One little tiny grain of rice can change your life, really change your life. I remember when we were making sprouts for Srila Prabhupada, and he said, make sure you use every single sprout. Each sprout is a living entity. He was so concerned. We were a little wasteful, making all these sprouts, maybe one or two would stray off by themselves, and that was the instruction. Make sure you use all of them. Don't waste. This living entity is volunteered to do devotional service. So little things become big things, because it's spoken by the lips of the spiritual master. There in Hawaii, there was a handwritten sign in the kitchen that Srila Prabhupada personally wrote for Jadurani. It said, number 1, health. Number 2, chanting. Number 3, service. And number 4, reading. He said, in that order. If you don't have health,
Repeat it.
number 1, health. It was handwritten. It was like on a paper bag. It was up above the door. Number 1 was health. Number 2, chanting. Number 3, service. And number 4, reading. So he said, this is important because sometimes we weren't practical. We were young. We were able to burn the candle at both ends and just work like crazy, in the mode of passion for Prabhupada. He used our youth. It was absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. He engaged us like so many hours in the day. So much so that if you looked at the brahmacharis, we were taught to pay our obeisances in the morning when we got up, and we paid our obeisances at night before we took rest. if you looked out, because we didn't have a place, the brahmacharis all slept in the yard, you would look and see many brahmacharis asleep in the obeisances position. We had a very simple temple. They showered with the hose on the hill. The brahmacharis did. Our life was 2 different color flip-flops and 2 saris. Really, really simple. But we were so ecstatic to serve Prabhupada. And I remember when he first came and he cruised Waikiki to watch our Harinam Sankirtan party. We were in ecstasy. It was like we were 3 feet flying off the tarmac, just dancing, just in so much ecstasy. Prabhupada liked, according to Gorsindar, big old cars. So he had I think it was a 57 Chevy with the wings. Remember that green thing? It was this old, huge, very gas hoggish car. And it was still not the time where everybody was into conserving gas. But Prabhupada would drive in that car. And I remember when Govindadasi used to ride on the back of Gorsindar's motor scooter cycle, and she got her chadar caught up in it. And Prabhupada was so concerned that, your sacrifice, it's like you're risking your life for me. And Gorsindar was working too, and he was saying, you're having to go do so much inconvenience for me. He was so concerned about the sacrifice that the devotees made for him. At the time it was taking, wherever Prabhupada was, we would peel green bananas and dry out the bananas to send them for banana flour wherever Prabhupada was, because in the US, we didn't really have all the Vedic things. We didn't have the Indian grocery stores like we do today. So we had certain kinds of routines that we did for personally serving Prabhupada that we really relished. And one of them was mangoes. When it was mango season, we would pack them up really carefully and we would label them photographic material. Do not, just, be careful. Fragile. This end up. All these signs all over it. And wherever Srila Prabhupada was, we would send them to him. And I heard that one of those boxes came to him in Mayapur. And he instantly ate a mango. And that mango he gave to Tapamoya. And he said, plant this. And they planted the mango, and that tree lived for years and years. It only recently was cut down to make way for the temple. Mahaprasad mango tree in Mayapur that was somehow or other, one of us packed the mangoes for Prabhupada and sent them off to him. Of course, without agricultural inspections or anything. We didn't believe it. We believed in the Supreme Personality of Godhead's natural law of nature to serve the spiritual master no matter what, at all costs. And we didn't believe in the laws of men. Mouse and men.
Mike.
Across from the street, from the temple, Hawaii has many flowers. People have flowers growing in their yards, especially champa flowers. So across the street from the temple, the lady put a sign on her plumeria tree. It says, "I don't pick your flowers, don't pick mine."
We actually had the neighborhood scoped out for every deity outfit. We knew that, how Monday is a certain color, Tuesday is a certain color, like that. Every day of the week a different color the deities would wear. So we knew where the matching colored flowers were growing. And we would get up really early, like 2, to scour the neighborhood to get the right flowers to match the deities' outfits. When Prabhupada came, we majorly raided the rose garden. I mean, stripped it bare. There's a special rose garden by the zoo down close by Waikiki. And anyway, what to do? These are all fond memories of following in the footsteps of the Supreme Lord and his mischievousness for Krishna. So Prabhupada, there was another time that was really somber. The temple had blooped. That was heavy, very heavy. When the temple blooped in Hawaii, the whole temple blooped. And Prabhupada came, he sent a team of 6 men to get the deities and bring them from the garage that they were being stored in. We had gotten there just a few months before and were banned from the temple immediately. I was pregnant with my first child and born and raised in Hawaii. I just went home because the place we were at was like, you know, you'd have to clear the bums off of the front stoop to get into the temple for Mangalarti. Mission Street, Valencia area in San Francisco. Once I was running to Mangalarti a little late, and there was a bum just staggering along, and he turned around and pulled a knife on me. He thought I was attacking him. But this was the neighborhood we were living in, so I thought, I don't know if I want to raise a child here. This might be a little dangerous. So we moved back to Hawaii. Yeah, it had been a mortuary. The temple had been a mortuary before they turned it into a temple. Well, I don't know. I was there, wait a second, when Prabhupada came, and he loved, you know, wherever Srila Prabhupada went, it always smelled like fresh paint. Everywhere. The fumes of fresh paint were there. And he came to that. I was there when Srila Prabhupada came to that temple. And there was a skylight in the middle of the temple that they would shower flowers from. He really liked that. He did like that. And the whole sidewalk was painted with lotus flowers, and he liked that. I was there at that temple for a year, and he came once. That was really wonderful. And at that place, when he came, I was sewing. I was sewing because we were covering everything in this sort of grungy house that we got for Prabhupada to stay at. And we scrubbed the walls, painted everything, and recovered all the furniture so Prabhupada could have a fresh place. It was in Berkeley. Boy, the devotees that lent their house really got a makeover on their place for it. And I was there doing the last stitching, and I had been in Hawaii when Jayashree accidentally left a pin in Prabhupada's cushion, seat cushion. So I was very aware not to do that. You know, Govindadasi had us trained that we hurt ourselves first before we accidentally hurt the spiritual master. So I was trying to make sure there wasn't a pin in everything, and doing the last stitching when Srila Prabhupada came in. And we were sort of greedy, like, if you could stay in the room when Srila Prabhupada's there, you did everything in your power to try to be where he was. And it was not always easy, but there I was, lucking out. And Prabhupada came in and he asked for water, and he asked for them to wash his legs. He said, when you've been traveling and you don't feel really comfortable, he said, just by washing the legs and the feet, the whole body feels refreshed. That was so nice. So I think he liked it there. But yeah, it was a morgue, so. Yeah, there's, Prabhupada, we were not the most brilliant. Like, one of the things that Lakshman used to do is steal flowers from graveyards. Not the graves, but, flowers that grew there. That's not recommended, we weren't really that smart. But Prabhupada trained us. He definitely, we learned by experience. One of the things I always tell is how we used to offer sparklers to Srimati Tulsi Devi. Remember that? Prabhupada wasn't very pleased with our inventiveness, and he said like that. He said, you Americans always inventing everything. Just stick to the ghee wick, don't do this. So, but still, when you think about some of the silly things we did and such mercy we got, in those days, every morning we got up and went out back with the datang, the twig, because Prabhupada brushed with the twig. And we all had this really simple, we just did what Prabhupada did. We went out and brushed with the twig. I mean, we all had toothbrushes and all that, but we brushed with the twig. Because it's healthier for your gums and teeth. You got a coat of chlorophyll. Prabhupada said, you won't get any cavities. So we brushed with the twig. We had mango twigs. I could go on, but it's Manjari's turn. Hari Hari Bo, Hare Krishna.
Oh, I like hearing you. Your turn.
It has to be cool. Oh, she's got a microphone. Keep it on. Yeah.
Okay. So, actually, we should talk about the twigs. Prabhupada used mango. And then when he was in San Francisco, they would get for him eucalyptus. And I've also heard cherry. Cherry was very good. Cherry is astringent. So Prabhupada would use those. And I've heard also others as well. But Prabhupada always, wherever he was, he would get twigs from the area he would ask for.
Put the mic up just a little. Good.
I was going to tell him again.
Oh. It was okay the way it was. Just take the mic off of the thing, yeah. Put it on the floor.
Kusha was, let's see. Kusha was very good. But I think if I'm going to talk about Iran and Prabhupada in Iran, maybe it would be best with Mandakini later on when she talks sometime soon. She's coming back tonight.
Tonight.
And not as this baby. I don't know. So, okay. Maybe I should. All right. So, I first did not see Srila Prabhupada when he came in 1970 to the Hawaii Temple in July of 1970. At that time, it was my misfortune. In 1969, I think I was at the same concert that Kusha met the devotees. There were so many different concerts in Waikiki. The first time I met the devotees was Govinda Dasi on the at Sandy Beach. And I was at Sandy Beach, which is a big body surfing beach. And it was a hot day. We were lying out in our bathing suits. And down this beach comes this lady in a yellow sari. Old synthetic, I think.
Yes, that's important.
It was a really hot day, and I was looking at her, and I thought, my God, why is she dressed from head to toe in this sari? And she was passing out invitations to a love feast. Yes, a love feast. And I thought, my God, what's a love feast? It sounded, strange, like a strange thing. And I wasn't really interested in going to some kind of orgy or something. And so I didn't go. And then I think I next saw the devotees outside one of the concerts in Waikiki, and there's Balabhadra, and he's saying Hare Krishna, and he's giving out plates of prasadam. But it was sort of like a goopy mess of some kind of wet vegetable and fruit salad mixed together. And I have to say, I didn't appreciate it. And I took it, but I couldn't bring myself to eat it. So unfortunate. I threw it away. And then, when we were outside, and we must have heard them chanting. Then, the next time was, so Krishna gives you all these chances. I failed the first, the second. And then the third time was at the Diamond Head Crater Festival. We have a volcano, extinct volcano on Oahu, and it has a crater, and they had a big festival in the crater. And they invited all these rock and roll bands, and the devotees came, and they were chanting. And so I did see the devotees, and I did hear the chanting, and I think I even chanted. And at that time, one person who was a devotee, Siddha Swarup, was there. And he had his own group from the Haiku Meditation Center. And they were distributing organic bread with peanut butter and honey and bananas. And I had a school friend, Gil Dor. Yeah, who became is Dwight Gildor Uddhava? No. Yeah, he was initiated. Well, his sister's name is Gopika. Gopika, that's right, yeah. Anyway, he was there. He was a classmate, and he was there distributing the prasad. And they were also chanting, and they invited us to a meeting at the Church of the Crossroads. And so that's how I met Siddha Swarup at that time.
Were you there when Govindadasi stormed it?
Yeah, I was.
Oh my God. We had, because I was at the temple, and so I was telling them Govindadasi about Siddha, because I knew him very well. I had lived in his ashram for the 3 months of summer, and he went to the same high school, and we were part of the same surf club. My boyfriend and he belonged to Windward Surf Club, and so we went to all the same parties and all that. So in high school, so I let Govindadasi know what was up with them, and so she wrote to Srila Prabhupada and got this letter back from Srila Prabhupada saying, they might be chanting Hare Krishna, but milk touched by the lips of a serpent might cause poisonous effects. So we made hundreds of copies and stormed their meeting with it. We went to every single meeting she held, and we passed out this letter. We were insidious. We had a good time, actually.
Well, first I should tell you about Siddha. Siddha's name was, at that time, he was going by Sai Young. Everybody called him Sai. He's not an ordinary person. Actually, Prabhupada later said, he gave him the name Siddha Swarup. He said, he comes from Siddha Loka.
Prabhupada said he has siddhis.
He definitely has.
He was extremely charismatic.
But no guru.
Very beautiful.
No lineage.
So he was doing Kundalini yoga on Maui. That's where the ashram that she went to, the Haiku Meditation Center. And he had attracted a following. And then he had begun to chant Hare Krishna. In the beginning by 1970, he was chanting Hare Krishna.
End of 69. He was when he started at the end of the summer of 69, he was chanting. But it was really Gopi Bhav Club stuff. They would all dance around him like he was Krishna, and he'd play the flute. I wanted to vomit.
So then he was, they would have at the Church of the Crossroads this meeting where they did something called psychic sleep, which was a yoga thing, where they would have everybody in the room lies down. And then somebody is speaking, it was Siddha who was speaking, and saying very, very peacefully, now you should feel like your toes are falling asleep, and then your feet and your ankles and your legs, and slowly he's talking through the body and relaxing the body until the whole body is at rest. And then he says, but the body is sleeping, but you're still here. You're the consciousness within the body, because you're not this body. And so the whole thing was to get you to understand that you're not this body. And then they would very, very silently, slowly begin to chant Hare Krishna. And then everybody was lying down. Some people actually did fall asleep, but most people didn't. And then at that point, everybody is chanting, and then they would sit up. It was a really good technique, actually, to get everybody into chanting. And then everybody begins to chant, and then the kirtan goes on. Sometimes maybe he gave a talk, I don't remember. But then they would serve a delicious vegetarian feast. Anyway, I was a part of that.
Red tilak to distinguish themselves.
Well, that came a little later. So this was going on every week. It was kind of nice, and we had an ashram out at the North Shore. Where a lot of people went surfing, Sid also. And it was Sunset Beach, beautiful surfing spot. Pipeline, Rocky Point. Yeah. So then, into our midst of our very peaceful little gatherings comes Govinda Dasi and Kusha and all the devotees. No, but actually the women went, didn't they? They didn't.
No, it was only us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I knew everybody, so we would just get in.
And so they were passing out these letters, that was Prabhupada. So
We were getting so many of their devotees.
yes, there were defectors and everything but little did we know, I personally didn't pay much attention to those letters. But Siddha did.
Yes, you did.
It was Siddha Sarup who took it most seriously. And within his mind, he decided, long before he let anybody know, that he wanted to accept Srila Prabhupada as his guru. And then slowly, what he was teaching us began to change. And he incorporated more and more. Actually, he was sending some of his men, like Tishta Krishna, later Tishta Krishna Maharaj, and Bihari Lal, and Little Dave, and he was sending them to go to the temples to pretend that they were joining the temples, in different places, and they would actually join the temples and learn all the books that everybody was reading, all the practices, and then they would bring it back and they would tell him, and then he was incorporating it into what he was teaching us. And so we would, we started chanting 16 rounds. We all went out and got Job's tears. I don't know if you know this, Job's tears, they call it here Vajanti Mala. And we would pick them and we'd make our own beads and chant. And we began to chant 16 rounds. I remember the first time I chanted one round. It took 2 hours. And started reading Prabhupada's books. And not only that, we were going on Sankirtan. Of course, the ISKCON devotees were also going on Sankirtan. And we had rival Sankirtan parties in Waikiki.
They were on the other side of the street from us.
And we were, we're so antagonistic, actually.
Totally.
And so, but at some point, by this time Siddha has over 100 people that are in his group. And there's people on different, on Maui and on Oahu. And at one point he called everybody together. He had everybody from Maui come. And he sat there and he said that he had decided that he was not qualified to be a spiritual master because he had no guru. We could have told him that, and we did. It took him a while to accept it. But he credits Govinda Dasi to this day for his becoming a devotee. And then he said he's joining ISKCON. And we could also, if we wanted. Otherwise, he wishes us well. He had a lot of people were giving him money, a lot of money, and so he had enough money. The Hawaii temple was really small, and it wouldn't have been able to accommodate 100 new devotees all at once. And so he arranged that devotees go to, like 20 devotees go to LA, devotees go to New York, devotees go to San Francisco, to London. Actually the best devotees, the most fixed up ones, got to go to London. And those devotees later came to India with Prabhupada. They were very fortunate. And but so devotees went all over the United States and England. And I was underage, so I had to stay in Hawaii. And Siddhasarup, later he went to San Francisco, but I think 2 months later he came back. Now there's something that happened that is very interesting. Like I was saying, he had very serious devotees, and they went to London. One of them was Tushta Krishna and his wife Krishna Tulsi. Tushta Krishna was such a devotee that so intelligent, so positive, so enthusiastic, that in whatever situation he was put, he would rise to the top. And so it was like that in the temples. And when he came to India, he became kind of one of the leaders here in Prabhupada's preaching in India. We're talking, I think, 1971. And then I think that's the year that in Bombay they did the big pandal, and Radhanath Maharaj came, and they had the blimp or whatever it was, advertising. So that was that year. And
Tushta Krishna came when I was in Mumbai.
yeah.
I got initiated at that festival you're talking about.
Oh, so yeah, so you remember.
I was in Bombay too, but I was still an educated bum on the road. I remember seeing the pandal and seeing the blimp also. But the people I was with, I said, let's go in. And they didn't want to go in, so I didn't go in, but I could hear the music. It was really nice.
You were missed by initiation? You were right there and you missed by initiation? Boy, 35,000 other people came and you missed it.
I was just 100 yards away.
Well, you probably had a Love Mantra Association. So then, but before that, I think it was before the pandal. What time of the year was the pandal?
March 27th.
Okay, so yeah, all right. So around that time, Gorsundar, who was the temple president, sent a letter requesting, usually 6 months after once a devotee, then the temple president would request initiation. So he sent a letter requesting initiation for Siddhasarup and another devotee named Prahlad. And at that time, Prabhupada said to Tushta, he said, you tell Sai that I will initiate him, and he can initiate all his disciples, all his followers.
If that's not a case for
Great.
No, well, it's not it's an example of not Ritvik in Prabhupada's presence. Yeah. Yeah, it's an example, yeah. And it's I think the only example that I know where Prabhupada would said that somebody could initiate in his presence. But so the letter came back to Hawaii, and Siddha told me this actually kind of recently. But he said he didn't want that. He didn't want to become their spiritual masters. That he wanted Prabhupada to initiate everyone. And
So he was
eternally grateful.
transparent via media for so many devotees becoming Prabhupada's disciples.
Example of not Ritvik.
Yeah, because Prabhupada was setting him up to initiate even in his presence. So, it's an example of making a spiritual master.
There's one other example. The only other example I know was maybe a few weeks before Prabhupada left his body. Radha Govinda Maharaj came to Prabhupada with a whole list of Biharis that wanted to become initiated by Srila Prabhupada. They were waiting so long, but Prabhupada was so ill he had stopped giving initiations. And Prabhupada told him very frankly, and he went to him 3 times, and Prabhupada gave him the same answer. Now they're not mine, they're yours. And he would come back again because, that's what you do in India. You go back and you don't accept the first time, and then you ask again. He asked Prabhupada, please initiate these devotees. They've been waiting so long to become initiated by you. And Prabhupada said, no, I am not doing this anymore. They are not mine. Now they are yours. And the 3rd time, the same thing. No, now they are not mine. They are yours. So this is the only other instance I ever heard of Prabhupada telling somebody during his lifetime to give initiation. Because I remember when we were having that struggle, I guess it was in 74, 75, when Hansaduta was being worshipped on people's altars while we were trying to pray, please Krishna, if you so desire, please cure Srila Prabhupada. And people in Europe especially were worshipping Hansaduta on their altars. And Prabhupada called him to India and said, you have to wait. And the etiquette is you wait until the spiritual master leaves his body. So that was the general etiquette. But in these 2 cases with Sai and with Radha Govinda Maharaj, Prabhupada actually told them to initiate while he was on the planet.
I heard he said on my behalf.
Huh?
I heard Prabhupada say on my behalf he said.
No, he didn't say that. I heard it directly from Radha Govinda Maharaj. I'm sorry, Radha Raman Maharaj. And I heard it once from Radha Govinda Maharaj also. And I heard it once from those who could understand what Prabhupada was saying, because I didn't understand it. He was speaking to them in Hindi. So, not on my behalf. Now they are not mine, they are yours. That's very special.
When Tushta Krishna was temple president in New Zealand, there was a point when Srila Prabhupada sent Siddha Swarup to help him, to encourage him, to inspire him. He kept the downline intact, even in his presence. He was very aware of the heartfelt loyalties that were in place.
And so then when Prabhupada, I guess it's almost time, but I'll just say that after Siddha Swarupa took initiation, first and second initiation at the same time. Prabhupada gave him. And that was also unusual. And then when Prabhupada came, when was it, 1972? Yeah, has to be, yes. I think it was 72 when Prabhupada came the next time. Oh yeah, so, okay.
It was in May 7th was the actual installation date, 1972, of Panchatattva. That's when Siddha Swarupa Ananda Goswami got sannyas.
That's right. And when Prabhupada arrived at the airport, Prabhupada's arrival of it, so that was my first time seeing Srila Prabhupada. I had already been initiated, I got initiated, Siddha got initiated first, and I got initiated, Shaktimati and I got initiated 2 weeks later. But then that was 71, so I had to wait until March of 72 before I saw Prabhupada. When Prabhupada came to the airport, all the devotees had come. By that time, Siddha was preaching on the outer islands, and he had made devotees on Kauai and Maui, and then there were also devotees from the Big Island. Sundar had been preaching on the Big Island, and so there were just devotees from all these different islands, and everybody came to Oahu to see Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada got off the plane, and he's just like like David Dehiti was saying, he's just, it was Sukhada, how regal Prabhupada was. When Prabhupada walked, nobody walked like Prabhupada. It's so beautiful how he walked. And
Floated.
yeah. And because it's Hawaii, we have so many flowers. So all of us had made garlands, and more than one, but at least everybody had one garland, and everybody put their garlands, and the garlands became so high, Prabhupada could hardly see. And then they had to take them off and then distributed them, and then there were more garlands put on and still piling up. And then Prabhupada sat, we had an arrangement for him to sit at the airport, and then he called for Siddha. He said, he's looking around, and he says, where is Siddha Swarup? And he was way back in the back. And then he called him, and they brought, Siddha came up, and he was very shy, and he offered obeisance at Prabhupada's feet, and he grabbed Prabhupada's feet and he touched them. And Prabhupada was reaching down and he was petting him, just like that. And he was so affectionate to Siddha, and Siddha was lying there. And anyway, that was that year that the deities were installed. Or that a few days later, the deities were installed.
That month of morning lectures Srila Prabhupada gave, every single morning he started each lecture with this is after the installation of the deities and after the sannyas. He said, and Lord Chaitanya took sannyas when he was a very young man. And each day, he would give a different reason why Mahaprabhu took sannyas. And I can't remember so much of what Prabhupada said, but I do remember that. I do remember some of them. But he was explaining why Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took sannyas, and he was explaining the Leela of Mahaprabhu. At that time, Chaitanya Charitamrita was not out. Try to understand that in terms of the books that Prabhupada had presented, first of all, Prabhupada did the Bhagavad Gita. Then, teachings of Lord Chaitanya,
and Sri Upanishad, and then Nectar of Devotion. And try to understand also these in terms of what Prabhupada, like, kind of like, the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam was of course already out. And we had, those that had the originals. The originals were all that there were. So we had in the temple at least 1 or 2 copies of the originals, and everybody would read them. But, so after that, Lord Chaitanya, this Chaitanya Charitamrita was the next most important that we needed to know. But Prabhupada didn't know whether he would be able to translate the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. So he did a summary study in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And then Sri Upanishad, which we all would chant every day, the entire Sri Upanishad. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam. Like that, we would chant that. And all the mantras, there are 18. And then, and this gives very solid arguments against Mayavad. And, a real philosophical grounding. This is the Upanishad. Prabhupada was introducing an Upanishad, which is Shruti. The other books are Smriti, but Prabhupada was introducing Shruti to show that this Krishna consciousness movement is bona fide, it is Vedic. And then after that, then there's the Nectar of Devotion, because we're Rupa Nugas, how to follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. And then, I forgot one.
In those days, we had 3 classes a day. We had the class, Bhagavatam in the morning, Bhagavad Gita in the evening, and whatever book just came out, we were studying at midday.
Right.
So we had 3 classes.
And the books were always coming out. So when Prabhupada came, Krishna book had already come out, I think. Yeah. I remember when we received it, we opened the box and there's Krishna book. It's so exciting.
But before we got the actual book, we were getting advanced, like mimeographs, not Xerox, mimeograph copies of chapters of Krishna book. It was like we were stealing the nectar before it had been printed.
I remember then the Srimad Bhagavatam, the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam was coming out chapter by chapter. They would, while it was being worked on, they would print one chapter in like a booklet form. And that's how we would get it, and then we would start reading
Lord in the Heart. That was a good one.
And we were chanting Bhagavad Gita. We started because Gaursinder had said, Gaursinder was our authority. And Gaursinder was trained by Srila Prabhupada. And he really is a genius. So he had said, let's start with the 7th chapter. We're going to chant the Sanskrit. And we'll start with the 7th chapter because how the first 6 chapters are like the first cover of the book, the last are the last cover, and the middle 6 chapters of the Gita are the essence. And so we were chanting the entire 7th chapter before class, just chanting only the Sanskrit. And so we had learned it. By this time we had memorized it, and we had gone on to I think we were going on to the 8th chapter. But Prabhupada came and he found out that we were doing this, and he liked it very much. And then when he went to LA, then he began, that's when the Srimad Bhagavatam classes, as we know them, with the chanting of this, as we have them here in the temple, with the chanting of the Sanskrit by everybody, that's when that started to take place, when he went to LA. I think it had begun in Japan, but really it was when it started in LA that it really took hold, and that became the form in all the temples. But he really appreciated our chanting the Bhagavad Gita like that. And so when he was when he was speaking that time after installing Panchatattva, then he was saying that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas when he was a very young man. He was explaining the history of Mahaprabhu. Not only that, but he was explaining the history also of the Gaudiya Sampradaya and of the Madhva Sampradaya, and of all the Sampradayas, and also in counter-distinction to Shankaracharya and the Mayavad philosophy. He was explaining the philosophies of the Sampradayas.
Yeah, when Srila Prabhupada wasn't on the Vyasasana that particular month, he had a particular theme that he was talking about during the entire month, and that was, he was talking about the word intuition and instinct. And he was saying, just see the rascal way that they use the language to cut Krishna out of it. He spoke on this at great length. Every day he spoke that this word intuition, it's the Lord in the heart is speaking and guiding the wandering of the living entity here and there. They're saying intuition, they're saying instinct. Where is the understanding of Krishna in this language? You're speaking this language, these rascals. And he went on all month in this way about the way that the impersonalism within the language.
Okay, Pradumna was there.
Pradumna was there, Shamsundar was there.
And Nandakumar. Okay, those were the three people there. And Shamsundar was interviewing Prabhupada on the philosophers. He was explaining what Hegel said, and then Prabhupada would comment on that. And they were going to write a book on it.
Kierkegaard, Plato, Socrates.
Yeah, the different Western philosophers.
Material dialecticism. It's called, what was it called? Spiritual dialecticism?
There was a book during that trip too that
the problem was that he didn't really understand that Shamsundar didn't really understand the philosophers to be able to present it to Prabhupada.
But Gursinder had written a book called Krishnology, and he presented it to Srila Prabhupada during that visit. And that was really instructive to all of us because he had forgotten the dedication in the first printing. All of them went in the trash. Prabhupada was not pleased that the dedication wasn't there, so they were all disposed of and a new set printed with the proper dedication. But it was, sometimes the Lord uses devotees to teach us something. He creates a forgetfulness so that we can all learn from their mistake. So we shouldn't really think down on a devotee for being utilized by Krishna in this way. We should just take it as an instruction. How about with the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, when the devotees offered it to Srila Prabhupada? In the I think it was the title page or the acknowledgements or something, the dedication. Anyway, they dedicated it to Srila Prabhupada. It's Prabhupada's book. Big mistake. Actually, that's an idea. We used to say there's the Sanskrit scholar's disease. All of our early Sanskrit scholars kind of fell away from, or not all of them. Many of our Sanskrit scholars left, Krishna consciousness or left Srila Prabhupada. And one thing is that when you become close to a book, you begin to think it's yours.
especially, you know, in English it's one thing, but especially in Sanskrit, you even more have that, you're more prone to that mentality that you begin to think that it's your words or your translation, you know, forgetting that it's Srila Prabhupada's. It's a very difficult service, and it's like a razor's edge to work in publications. And then one time the devotees forgot to, they said A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And they forgot, they didn't put Prabhupada. And Prabhupada was immediately pointed that out. And he said, just see the mentality of this person. He forgot to put that. And another thing is that the devotees make a mistake of even now, that they don't know that Prabhupada's name is Swami Maharaj. Prabhupada, the Bhaktivedanta, is the title that was given by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. And it was actually given to Srila Prabhupada even before Keshav Maharaj gave him that. It was given by his godbrothers in an assembly. He was bestowed the title Bhaktivedanta. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta used to bestow titles on his disciples, like Srila Sridhar Maharaj is Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, the protector of Bhakti. And so his others they have different titles. And so in the Gaudiya Math they followed that process. And so they bestowed on Prabhupada Bhaktivedanta. But Keshav Maharaj liked Bhaktivedanta so much that he he wanted to, I know, they were thinking of, I think he spoke to Srila Sridhar Maharaj.
Muni Maharaj also got Bhaktivedanta.
Yeah, of course, everybody did. No, they were, instead of Bhaktivedanta, he had another one that he wanted to do, but I forgot what it was. But it was Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, no, Bhaktivedanta is better. Oh, Bhaktisiddhanta. Yeah, it was Bhaktisiddhanta. And so they discussed, well, then everybody, you know, it's okay, it's like this. How can I say?
If it was Keshav Maharaj, then why would it be Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj?
No.
Swami and Maharaj is not the same?
No, try to understand. There are 108. This is another story about the 108 sannyas names. However, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, from one scripture, took 108 names as the 108 sannyas names. So everybody in the Gaudiya Math gets one name out of these 108 names. So that's kind of, I mean, 108 is not really that many, and some are more popular than others. So that's why you have a lot of Tirtha Maharajas, or more than one Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod, Bhakti Vaibhav. So they give a name before that, because Puri is the sannyas name. So Swami is one of the sannyas names. And this is why also. Okay, well, first of all, let me just, I'll come back to this point. Remind me about the Swami being a sannyas name and why Prabhupada did something. There are 108 sannyas names, and he chose Swami. Now, he wanted to do Bhaktisiddhanta. And that means that everybody that he initiates would be Bhaktisiddhanta Puri Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta Aranya Maharaj, Bhaktisiddhanta something Maharaj. That would be. But it was Srila Sridhar Maharaj advised him, no, you know, that's the name of our Gurudev. there's two ways that you can honor your guru. One is that you keep his name kind of separate, like nobody gets that name. Just like, I think they do that in sports. They have a number, and then nobody else gets that number. But another way is that everybody gets it. And who's to say, they're both valid as ways of honoring. And so, Kesha Maharaj, he decided on Bhakti Vedanta. So, everybody that he gave sannyas to is Bhakti Vedanta something. The person who took sannyas with Srila Prabhupada is Bhakti Vedanta Muni Maharaj. And Prabhupada was Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj. Narayan Maharaj is Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Maharaj, Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Maharaj, Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Maharaj. So, but they're all disciples of Kesha Maharaj. So like that, they're all Bhakti Vedantas. Everybody, even to this day, in that whole month, everybody is a Bhakti Vedanta something. And like I was saying, there aren't that many names. There's 108 names. So, and Srila Prabhupada knew this. And so, I think Prabhupada insisted that he be A.C. Abhay Charanaravinda was his name, initiated name. And so he insisted on A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. That's how he would sign, that's on his letterhead, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And, but my feeling is that Prabhupada knew that somewhere in the future somebody else is going to be a Swami. They're not going to retire that name. And so he wanted to be able, that his disciples would be able to distinguish him. So it was A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Because he was also told that usually you don't keep your former name, but Prabhupada kept a form of that. And so the devotees, not knowing that Prabhupada's name is Swami Maharaj, Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, they've only taken the Bhaktivedanta and they've dropped the Swami. Just like, that's a mistake, I have to say. The Gurukul did that. It is the Bhaktivedanta Gurukul, but it really should be Bhaktivedanta Swami Gurukul. Because there are many Bhaktivedantas, but we have Bhaktivedanta, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. A.C. Bhaktivedanta, yeah, it should be even an A.C. Bhaktivedanta Gurukul, yeah. Anyway, that's a little thing about that.
Well, we could do something about that.
They should at least know. I've said it before. They don't really care.
Anita's here.
I'm fast as well. Here, it's really fast as well.
Put it closer. 2 clicks.
A story about Srila Prabhupada and Srila Maharaj in Mayapur in 1975. The devotees had a squabble with him, and sorry?
In New Zealand?
No, in Mayapur. And they kind of, they physically duffed him up, or something to that effect. And word got back to Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada said, to my understanding, if he's come from such a far away place, he's traveled so far to come here to see me, there must be some love. And he said, the love Krishna's love for the living entity is unconditional, just like a father's love for his son. No matter what you do, still I love you. So Prabhupada made peace right there. He loved them all, and he wanted them to love each other.
Well, what is last letter to Prabhupada?
I think we passed the 7 o'clock mark.
Oh, okay. Anyway, next time I'll tell you about Siddha Swaroop's last letter to Srila Prabhupada. It was really beautiful. And it just goes to show, somebody was, is Bhakti Churu Maharaj? Yeah, Bhakti Churu Maharaj. Anyway, something Siddha wrote was very similar to what Bhakti Churu Maharaj was talking about in his offering. But Prabhupada's response to that devotee was very different than his response to Siddha Swaroop. Anyway, but we don't have time, so thank you.
Stay tuned. Thank you much. Your lady. Sukhada.